Okay, first you need a piece of corrugated cardboard, and then you need to pull some of it off, as I've done here. It's quite easy to do. Just find the side where you can see the side smoother, this side you can see the corrugated, and get yourself something. I've got a pokey tool here, and just sort of poke it underneath, and then start ripping off the pieces until you still want to keep some of the smooth on. Just keep doing it until you've got as much off as you want and you like the look of the surface. Then get some white gesso, I've got some here, and just paint it over the surface in a random way. It doesn't matter if you don't get all of it. In fact, sometimes when it looks a bit like this, just like dry brush strokes, that's quite effective. Some of it you can put it on a bit heavier. I normally just get like a big dollop on my brush and then spread it around, and the places where it doesn't cover very smoothly, then that doesn't matter, I just leave it uncovered. So that's basically it, and then you just leave that to dry. I'm using a card blank that when closed is 13.5 by 13.5, but you can use any size that you want to, and then I've cut a piece of patterned paper. This is got a cream design on it, as my card is white and cream. This comes from this collection, which is the Papermania capsule collection by Jessie Edwards in the cream colouring. There's quite a lot of nice papers in there. These are 12 by 12 sheets. I've cut this down to 13 by 13 so that when it goes on the paper, it's got a bit of a gap around the edge. Also, depending on which way you're going to have your card, this is how you're going to do the orientation. I'm going to have mine standing up like a tent, so that's that. I'm going to distress the edges of this paper. I don't waste money buying one of those special machines to do it. I just use a pair of scissors, and if you open the scissors up and just run your paper along the edge like that, it distresses it really nicely. Carry on doing that in a minute, and then come back to it. The other thing I'm going to do with this card is I've got some distress ink in, well, this one's brushed corduroy, but you could use any brown colour, and I'm going to just ink the edges of the card. Ready for the paper to go on. I'm just going to ink the front. You don't have to do it particularly. Sorry, I've gone off there. You don't have to do it particularly carefully because it's going to be covered up by the paper, and you just want it to look a bit old. And when I finish distressing the edges, I'm also going to run some of the same ink around the edges where it's been distressed, just to give it a bit of a dirty, old looking finish like that. Okay, so I'm going to do that on all the edges, and then I'll come back. Okay, my paper's all distressed now, and don't worry if you rip little bits slightly, like this bit, just accentuate it more with the ink. This card's meant to be shabby and tatty, so don't worry too much about that. Okay, I've got my card the right way round. I'm going to use some ATG, or this is just like a tape runner. And don't go right up to the very edges, just leave a tiny gap. Make sure your paper's the right way up when you put it onto the card. Just going to eyeball this distance. Put it on, and then just with your fingernails, just sort of go around the edge on that little edge that you didn't stick down, and just sort of curl it forward a tiny bit. It just sort of gives a bit of dimension to the edge. Next thing we want to do is get one of our panels. Make sure it fits properly where you want it to be, with a slight gap around the edge. If not, you can trim it down a bit. I've left a bit on the top here because I've punched out a border using the Martha Stewart doily edge punch. I've also inked it slightly along the top, and I'm going to stick this just underneath there, so there's just a slight bit standing out. So I'm going to put this where I want that to be on the card. I'm going to put some glue along the edge of the card where I want the doily to be, and then I can eyeball this on the card and then stick it on in the right place, and then after that I'll just trim this down. And then ink the edges, and I'm also going to ink the edge of this. And also I'm just going to sort of like randomly just run that down just to make that white a little less white. Okay, the next thing is to the middle. What I've done is Tonya Gibbs of Psycho Mum was offering a printout of a calendar, so I downloaded that. I'll put the link down below for it if you want to go and find it. I think she's still got it on her blog, and I've also printed Happy New Year. I'm doing several of these cards, so I've printed a few out. I've only printed out January, as it's a Happy New Year card. That's the only month I wanted. On PDFs it is possible to take a snapshot of a certain part of the PDF, and then you can just use that in any other what are they called? Desktop publishing program. Thank you. Sorry, my mind went blank there for a minute. If you don't know how to do this and you want me to show you a quick tutorial of how to do that snapshot, send me a message, and if I get enough interest, then I will do it. So I'm going to cut around one of these close to the edge and sort of just leave a tiny little bit of white around this difficult part here, and I'm going to cut out one of these Happy New Years, but longer, because I'm going to make it into a banner edge. Okay, so I'll cut those out, and then I'll show you what I'm going to do next. Okay, so I've cut out my little calendars, and I'm going to ink the edges of those. Again, I'm using the brush corduroy. The other thing I'm going to do with that is I've got also antique linen distress ink, and I'm just going to rub over the paper, the little calendar, a bit with that, just to give it a bit more of a cream colouring, because the white is too much of a stark white, and I want to tone it down a bit. Just do that until you're happy with how it looks. I've cut my banner piece out, and I've left some length on the end, on either end, and I'm going to do the same with this, using the antique linen to age it. I've tried to cut this straight, but I've just cut it by hand. I haven't bothered to put it in any cutting machine or anything. And And now I'm going to ink along the edges again with the brush corduroy. I'm not going to do the end pieces at the minute, just the edges. Okay, now what I'm going to do now is just from the end of the word where I want the word to end, I'm just going to bend that under like that, and the same on this edge. You see what I'm doing? Just in front of the H, bend it under, and then take a little bit, I don't know, quarter of an inch or less, and bend it again that way so that you get the little like a double V shape. Okay. And the same on the other edge. This one could have probably been slightly longer. And then with my scissors I'm going to find the middle and just make a small cut, then from each edge to that cut on a diagonal. So that I get the banner shape. This one could probably have been a bit longer. So again, you cut it off for how long you want your banner piece to be, and again mark where you want the centre of your banner to be, and just snip off, and then you've got the little banner, ribbon banner edges. So you don't need to buy an expensive die to do that. It's quite simple to do it yourself. And now I'm just going to ink the rest of those edges and along the folds. So those two pieces are ready to go on now. I've got some 6mm cream organza ribbon here, and I've measured out a strip that is long enough to go across the card and wrap around. I've also got this cream coloured ribbon, if I can find the end. This was how I bought it. It was in a job lot and I haven't managed to sort it out yet. I've got the thinner length. I've got two sizes here. This one's smaller, it's probably about 4mm, and it will fit across the ribbon like that and show a bit of the organza on either side. So I'm going to cut a piece of that which is the same size as my organza, give or take a bit. I'm also going to take little January calendar. I'm just keeping this on here, on the card, in the position that I want it really, so I can see. And I'm going to glue this piece on, leaving about ½ an inch along the bottom. Eyeballing it, trying to get more or less an equal distance on either of the sides. You can use wet glue, tacky glue, to do this if you prefer. Okay, now I'm going to run a bit of ATG along one of the edges. See where I want it to fall on the card, probably around the line of the middle line of the dates, and then just stick that underneath, and then do the same on the other side. Keep it straight, she says, and then puts it on crooked. And then I'm going to do the same again with my other small piece of ribbon. Position that in the middle of the organza, run it straight across there, and then again stick it on the back. If you want to make sure that's a bit more secure, you can just put a bit of sellotape on there, to make sure that it doesn't come out of position. Okay, and now I'm going to glue the whole of this onto there, but this time I am going to use tacky glue, if I can get it to come out. Couldn't find the lid of this yesterday, so it's probably dried up a bit inside. There's a bit coming. Come on. Oh, now I've got 10 ton of it. Spread this over a bit. Don't go too close to the edge because you don't want it oozing out when you press down. Okay, spread that all over and then put it in position. Hold it down, give it a little while, a couple of minutes to actually stick down. The next thing I'm going to do is make a bow to go in the middle. What I do is just unwind a piece of the ribbon, and I want to do the same thing with the ribbon and the organza together. So I'm going to lay one across the other. And I don't like to waste any ribbon if I can help it. So how I do my bows is I decide sort of more or less how long I want the tail to be, which is hanging down here, and then I fold that into a bunny ear, and then I fold another bunny ear, approximately the same side. It's a bit more fiddly doing it with two pieces of ribbon. So you've got a bunny ear in that hand, a bunny ear in that hand, a little space in the middle. Then I cross the left over the right, a bit like one of the Cancer ribbons. So you've got a hole through the middle there, and then this one I tuck up through that hole and pull, and then you end up with your bow. After that I just pull the tail ends down and then keep tightening it until I get the size of bow that I want. And then afterwards I'll just cut that off. Obviously with this one, because it's got two pieces of bow going on there, it doesn't really matter if one's poking out from the other. It just makes a bit more tails on it. So that is going to be glued in the middle. I'll shorten these tails afterwards when I know exactly the positioning. And then you find the flattest, nicest looking side of the bow. Gets glued on, and I'm going to use, oh here it is, I can find my glossy accents for a minute. This sticks better really than anything else, so I'm just going to put a blob of glossy accents on there, and then I'm going to stick this in the middle of the other piece of ribbon so that it looks like it's actually been tied from that piece of ribbon. And now I shall just sit there with my finger on it until it's stuck down. While I'm waiting for the bow to dry, I've punched out some Martha Stewart butterflies, or some butterflies from a Martha Stewart punch. I've got plain cream. I'm going to put a blob of glossy accents. Then I've got pearlized cream, and then I've got vellum. These were all actually just punched from scraps, so I try not to waste any if I've got scraps left over of something. And it's small, I'll just punch out a few butterflies and keep them in a pot. They always come in useful. Just let those dry. I only need one for this card, but as I said before, I'm making a few, so I'm just going to glue one of these little teardrop pearls in the middle of each butterfly. And when they're dry, then you can open the layers a little bit, and it gives a nice 3D effect. I'll leave those to dry. The other element that we're going to put on this card is flowers. As this is going through the post, I don't want it to be two-dimensional, so I'm using one of these Prima E-line flowers, which I'm going to ink up a little bit just to change the colour. I also like to recycle brown paper and packaging paper that things come in. Put a whole load here, and on the bottom I've punched out some of these tin holes. So I want a big one and a small one. Everything's falling over. And again, I'm just going to ink around the edges of those. So this flower is also, I've got some of these flowers, a slightly creamy colour, but I'm going to a bit of brown. Okay, so I'll prepare this, a bit of glue in the middle, then this one which I'm going to offset slightly. You can do this with hot glue if you want to. Just can't be bothered to turn mine on for it doesn't matter if it's not perfect. Then this one. Then the brown. And in the centre, I'm going to put one of these little cream middles I got from Star Crafters store. And then when it's dry you can just sort of lift those pieces up a bit. So that's that prepared. Right, my bow is finally dried. I had a bit of trouble with that. I had to put a bit more glossy accents underneath. I want to put a couple of little strands of pearls coming down as well. I always save little leftover bits from when I've been working on a project. So I'll just cut myself a couple of strands the same. Leave that on, so one extra bead. Doesn't matter if they're not exact. Then I'm going to put a bit more glossy accents just there and lay these into the glue. Still hasn't stuck very well. I might have to revert to hot glue. Glossy accents normally sticks anything, but for some reason it didn't want to stick that. Okay, well, I'll let those glue on first and then I'll have another attempt. Let's put some more glossy accents, maybe it will glue better this time. Alone for a minute to dry. My flower is going to go in this top corner, so I might as well glue that on now as well. That can all be drying. Sometimes I use these clothes pegs, they're quite good for holding things in place. Well, I couldn't do it with the bow because the peg wouldn't reach up that far, but I can hold on to that. And then a butterfly is going to go just in this corner. Stay there to dry, and then my Happy New Year banner is going to go across here. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on either side of here. Just put that into place. Avoid touching that ribbon. So, there we are really, that's the whole card done. Just going to lift this up a little bit, make it a bit more dimensional. Probably get squashed when it's in the envelope anyway, so I'm not worried about it too much. And again, lift up the butterfly wings. hope you found this tutorial useful. I'm just going to trim the ends of these a little bit so they're not hanging over the edge of the card. Other than that, it's finished. So thanks very much for watching. Please go and have a look at my blog and follow me. Leave me a comment, and thanks very much for watching. Bye.